Welcome to today's video, guys. I don't really know what's wrong with me. I probably will never do an intro of a video like that ever again. But today, we need to put the exhaust manifold and the hot side all back together for the final time. We've done it so many times, it's ridiculous. But finally, it's the final time that we're putting all of it back together. We've already got the exhaust manifold gasket sitting on there, ready for me to slide on this beautiful, freshly ceramic coated exhaust manifold. We've got to clean up some edges and stuff on the V-bands just to get some of the ceramic coating off, but otherwise it's ready. And let me show you the turbo rear housing, which came out amazing. It's probably the most important part, is to make sure this is like really well coated. And James did a killer job. You guys like my turbo drain? It's like really overkill, but it'll do the job well. See this? Beautifully ceramic coated. So happy with that. So one of the reasons as well I want to talk about this drain, the guys at Havoc Speed make these, and these are absolutely brilliant. They're made from billet on a machine, and essentially, I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with the old style of turbo drains for these, where like the AN10 fitting would like be up here, and the problem with that is trying to get like a wrench or something in there, it hits on the turbo and everything. So what this does is, you know, you bolt it on and it's got an O-ring recessed into it, so you don't even need to worry about a gasket. It's got a high temp O-ring in there, and then this just comes down like that so that you can actually tighten it away from the compressor housing and the exhaust housing, so you actually have space there to get a wrench and a spanner on it. Looks a bit ridiculous on the bench, don't get me wrong, because it's like so far out. It looks like some kind of limb or something coming off it, but it's very, very practical and works really, really well. So that's my drain. We got the new hosing and everything like that. We got to do water lines, oil lines, get everything sorted for the turbo today, and then we'll be able to start this thing, I think. Oh boy, I'm getting excited. So without further ado, let's get this thing done. Here we go. Hopefully, the final time that this goes on. Where are we? There she goes. So I just got the exhaust manifold all bolted on, hopefully for the last time, and the next step to this entire maze of Tetris of putting everything together with how tight it is our wastegate. Now I could have opted and had this ceramic coated as well, but I decided not to because I've never disassembled one of these before, and I don't think it's going to really matter because this is like tucked down there behind the heat shield, so it should be okay. I don't think this is going to really heat things up too much, and obviously it's not just like, you know, open, it's going straight down and out with the little screamer pipe. Now before I put this on though, I need to figure out and put in the correct spring rates for this. So we're gonna go and open it and go through all the springs that come on the box and pick the best combo. I think I'm gonna try, like, I'm gonna set my wastegate spring pressure at 12 PSI is probably where I want it to be. And then that way we can adjust it and give it more for the E85 boost with the solenoid and the ECU. But I think 12 PSI is pretty happy for just 93 octane. And we've got this nice little cool tool here for undoing it. So we'll go through there now and replace out these springs, as you can see here, and put our nipples on and stuff. Here we go. Look at these. All come in the bag. Thank you so much, Turbo Smart. All right, let's get this thing together. So I've got a bit of a mess here, but I've got the instructions on Turbo Smart's website that just explain the different springs and which one's which. Now there isn't just a single spring for 12 PSI. They have one for 14, 7, 5, and 3. So what you want to do to get 12 PSI is grab the 7 PSI one, which is this pink one here. And that goes in there, and then you want to grab this gray one and put that in there as well. So we've combined 7 PSI with 5 PSI, making 12 PSI of strong springiness. They do have like a big spring here for 14, which I just don't think like I want to put that in as my base pressure. I think 12 is just a really good happy medium. I will be obviously including all this in the car, so you know, if the winner does decide they want to turn boost up and go a little bit crazy, they can. But obviously for now, 12 PSI wastegate pressure will be fine, and we'll have a lot of duty cycle in the solenoid to crank this up as well. So one thing I do love about this is it's literally just like this nice little locking collar here that you just use a C-clamp with, almost like the same C-clamps you use on coilovers. So you just kind of hold these two together with a vise. You can even use your hand if you're not using like 30 PSI springs. You can just push it down, hold it, and start to turn it. Like, look how easy this is, right? Hang on, let me set up the camera so you guys can actually see this. So all you have to do is push down with one hand, and then you can just spin this locking collar, and it's on. Now obviously you want to tighten that properly, but yeah, that's how easy it is to install and uninstall springs. I love it, it's great. One other super important thing is do not forget this. This is what seals the little valve in here. So right now if I blow on this, it comes straight out around the edges of the valve. So this is what goes in here and clamps against your V-band flange and actually seals the space around the valve inside the wastegate. So now no air can escape around there. A lot of people sometimes when they put these together, these fall out and they don't notice it, or they come not installed into the wastegate when they get it, and unfortunately they install it on their car not knowing that they've just got a huge boost leak. So little tip for you guys, if you just installed a wastegate and you don't remember seeing this and you've got really laggy boost spool time, that's probably why. So yeah, there you guys go. Make sure you always got that little collar in there. For now, time to get this bad boy back on the car and start piecing some more together. Oh, we obviously need to put in our backline nipples too. Just got the wastegate on, and I have to admit, like, this is my first time really dealing with V-band stuff a bunch, and I absolutely love it. All you have to do is snug this down so it's nice and firm, and then you can still kind of rotate it and move it into position. So when I get the screamer pipe on there in the V-band, then I can kind of twist and move it around to make sure it's in the perfect position before I tighten everything down perfectly. You know, like when you're dealing with 4-bolt flanges and stuff, it's kind of only in the orientation that however the flange was welded on, so makes it a lot easier for just mounting and getting everything in the right position. So anyways, let's get the turbo sitting on there as well, and then we'll start working out all the water lines and oil lines and get all of that plumbed up. All right, seriously, I don't know if I'm ever going to mess around with anything non-V-band ever again. This has just been such a walk in the park for me. It's kind of crazy. So I got the turbo sitting in there looking pretty right now. I've also worked on the intercooler piping and got that all clamped down and good to roll. You will notice that I'm not using those T-clamps here on the turbo. I'm using like these brand new hose clamps. Reason for that is everything's bead rolled and we're not going to be pushing 30 PSI, so that will be fine. Also, these clamps that came in the initial turbo kit are falling apart, so I just don't trust these, especially the ones that are broken, so we're just going to use these ones here. That aside, I am now focusing on water lines. We've got a straight shot to the port on the front there that I want to use for the inlet, and the outlet's going to go around the back of the engine and into the port there, which pretty much means AN line time. So I've got my cut piece of AN line here, which I believe is -5. So we got this here, we got a vise, we got the fitting that we got to put in, and some lube. Pretty much everything you need to do this yourself. It would be great if Chris had like the special vise clamps for AN lines to hold it in, but we should be able to just use this fine, and we should be good. So let's get this on. So when doing these lines, when you slip this collar over, you got to really tightly screw it down in there, and you got to wait till you see the hose. It might be hard to see, but the hose is then butted up against the lip inside there. It's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see it on the camera there, I think. And then once that's lined up there, then you know you're ready to move this part down into this, which I'll put like a rag or a piece of plastic either side so we don't scratch it up too bad. And then you want to lube this up and start screwing it in, so let's do that. If you have the special vise thing that's made out of alloy, it doesn't scratch it at all, and you can use that. But for now, this will have to do. So what you want to do is get your grease and just really grease up the tip of this. You don't need to put a whole heap on, but just enough that this thing can slide in through into the hose. And you want to make sure that you keep your hand on the other side of the hose so you can feel if it's pushing it out. If it's pushing it out, then you've made a mistake and you got to start again. But you should be able to push this in and start the threads. Be very careful not to cross thread this. It's probably one of the most common things we see happen. And you want to hold the hose and just feel if you feel it being pushed out. Seems like we're good so far. keep screwing with your hand until you can't anymore. And you should use alloy ones for this too, the special AN line ones, but once again, we're using what we have. It's not pushing it out. This means I think we're in the home run now. So by now, if it was pushing it out, you'd know. All right, done. Now if we take this out, let's see how badly, oh yeah, I still damaged it, but nowhere near as bad as what it would have been if we didn't have the plastic on there. But that looks really good. We can put this on the turbo side now. And then we can do the other one, which is the big long one. That one's gonna be the pain because I gotta get it onto a water nipple on the back of the block. But essentially this one's going in there and screwing into the turbo right there. So got a nice 45 there. You can see that. Look at that. 45 right there, straight down to the water port there. Perfect. So a fair bit of time has passed, and I'm sure you can tell something's going on here. There's a bunch of tools on the ground. There's an AC compressor on the ground now. I had to take the whole thing off the block, including the mount, because where the oil drain bung is, it doesn't have much clearance between that and the AC bracket on the block. So what I had to do was take it all off so I could angle grind out and take some material off so there's enough clearance there for the hose to slide onto the bung. I just hit it with some paint. This is supposedly 15-minute fast dry paint, so we'll see if that'll be dry in 15 minutes or not. And then once we get all of that back on, finally all the lines run to the turbo will be run, and we can think about putting the downpipe and screamer pipe on and start this thing. I didn't show you this, but like I just got the water lines run. Everything's a little bit weird right now because I got the turbo kind of turned sideways for just easy access to get into there. But I did have to also take out the coil packs and everything to get to the Super Miata reroute kit there to run my AN fitting in there for the water line that comes out from there under the booster and around into the side there. So everything's pretty much done, just waiting to get that oil drain sorted out, and then screamer pipe, down pipe, and this thing's ready to start. So yeah, you know, cars, man, just when you think like you're putting everything back on, you got to take stuff off to, you know what I'm trying to say. Cars, man, they always do this to me. I'm 100% positive that you guys are just as frustrated as I am at the amount of times I've put the turbo on, taken the turbo off, put the turbo on, taken the turbo off, put the turbo on, taken the turbo off, put the turbo on and taken the turbo off, put the turbo on and take the turbo off, put the turbo on and take the turbo off, put the turbo on and take the turbo off. I think I got that right. I think that was about as many times as I've put the turbo on and taken the turbo off, but we're finally getting there, guys. This is driving me insane. This is the last piece. We obviously got to put the heat shield in, but you know what I mean. So as you guys can see, I've got everything back together now, and I have to say James did a phenomenal job at all of that ceramic coating. Look how good the heat shield came out. I'm really pumped. Everything's pretty much in its final position. There's a few tiny things that I need to do, like when I put the belt on for the AC and the power steering pump, I need to just get a zip tie to hold that water line out of the way of the belt. But otherwise, everything's all rigged up. I've even got the boost solenoid hooked up. We're pretty much ready to start this thing. But before we do, I want to go to AutoZone, get some water wetter. And I did buy a new LSU 49 for the wideband, but unfortunately the plugs are different. This one's a lot bigger from the LSU 49 compared to this one. So I think this is just a slightly different model. So I'm going to take this in and see if we can match it up with what they have there. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because I always thought the AEM wideband gauges were using an LSU 49, but apparently they're not. All right, lads, I just got back from AutoZone. We got the right sensor. They had it in stock. And if any of you guys are wanting to get one from AutoZone or wherever, this is the Bosch part number that you need. And it just comes off like a Volkswagen, I think it was like a GTI or a VTI, I think the guy said. But yeah, we just went back there and matched it up. And this is a genuine Bosch. So I don't know what sensor brand AEM uses, but it doesn't seem like it's a genuine Bosch one. But this is like way higher quality. It also has a little bit of a longer cable, which is nice. But yeah, you can just tell that this is way better quality than what came in the box from AEM. Now, it is a bit expensive. It was like $114. But this is a genuine Bosch sensor, and it should get me up and running. So I'm pretty pumped that I was able to find that tonight. I was a bit worried. It's an LSU 42, by the way, not 49. 42 is what you need for the AEM gauges. Also, I had my first, what was it called? Payday? No. Musketeer. Three Musketeers. I had my first Three Musketeers, and it tasted like a Milky Way from Australia. Do you guys know what Milky Ways are? Yeah? It's the same thing, right?
Pretty sure it's the same thing.
Yeah? Tastes the same. Anyways. So this is the old sensor from AEM, and you can just tell like all the joins on it are breaking apart and stuff. It's not a high quality. I don't think it's a genuine Bosch one because there's no Bosch part number anywhere on it. So yeah, this thing's junk. Let's put that away in the bin. So I finished replacing the wideband sensor and I'm ready to start the car. But the first things first is we got to disconnect the cam angle sensor so that we can crank and build up some oil pressure. That way the turbo is going to be pre-lubed and everything like that. And we should be good. So, fingers crossed this thing cranks and the battery's not too flat. Waiting for that oil pressure. There it goes. All right, got some oil pressure in the car. Let's put the cam angle sensor back in. Okay, I think we can start this now. Oh boy, kind of nervous. Clutch in, we're not in gear. All right, here we go. Damn, started right away. Hey look, AFRs are working. Hell yeah. Hey, the turbo's spinning. Oh, I'm an excited little boy. Hell yeah. We got an exhaust leak I need to work on. Looks like some of these aren't tight. I can hear it. Where is it? I actually just worked out what the exhaust leak is. I never did up this V-band because while I was doing up the one under the car, you leave this top one loose. Now there's no exhaust leak. That's all it was. Loose V-band. So that's fine now. Sounds much better. So I had a little bit of a water leak here on this line and I just tightened it a little bit more, the adapter and the cross washer. So hopefully that won't leak anymore. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. The only leak on the entire car. Just going over and checking everything, then we're gonna start it back up and get back up to temperature again and make sure we're all good. So I finished going over everything, leak checking everything. We don't have a single leak, we are good. I tightened all my V-bands down because there was a few exhaust leaks that I talked about before. I just tightened everything and we seem to be good. Now I'm gonna go for a test drive. I can't get too much into boost because wastegate pressure is currently set to 12 PSI. So I gotta monitor the AFRs and make sure we're all good there. And we should be fine. This thing is idling pretty well, really good. It's about 15.5. It's a little bit lean, but that's okay at idle, no load. The moment we get into it, we're sitting in the 12s. So let's go for a little test drive. Pretty nervous. Let's get the roof down because Miata. Let's go. Oh, this is why you get a Miata. Am I right, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Except in my case, my head literally is like above the windshield. All right, we're moving. Man, this car has not moved in a while. It's been a minute. All right, we're listening for noises. The only noises we hear are the injectors right now. AFRs are looking pretty good. Oh man, tell you what, I definitely need to get power steering working in this thing. Okay, she goes lean pretty quickly. That turbo flows a lot more air than the other one. So we're just gonna putt around. We're at Stoich right now, 14.7. The moment I give it any type of throttle, we go lean. So we definitely don't want to break anything. So we're gonna cruise for a bit till we can get Jack to help us out. But the car's moving. I wish we could hear this thing on boost. Shame about the, yeah, I mean, we could jump on the computer. Hang on. I have the cable and everything. I can jump in and give it some more fuel. That's easy. So pretty big update. I've got my laptop all set up with the tuner software. It's very easy and straightforward. So what we're gonna do is go around for a little bit of a drive. And we're gonna increase the fuel map, put a bit more fuel in some places, burn that to the ECU, and then we should be able to at least get into a bit of boost. Main thing is obviously making sure AFRs are good. I also made our idle a little bit richer. We're now sitting at about pretty much stoichiometric levels there at 14.7, 14.6. It's perfect. So we just adjusted the table here a little bit. It's very similar to the Link ECU. Obviously things are just in different places, but if you have any understanding of tuning cars and stuff, once you've done it on one car and you're pretty confident on some stuff, you can work through everything else. So that's what we're gonna do, guys. Gonna go for a little bit of a drive, do a bit of street tuning. Jack would be proud. Jack the Wizard would be proud. So I'm pretty happy right now. I've got the street tuning down to a pat. We've done a bunch of adjustments here in the fuel map. So we're sitting pretty good. We're sitting in 12s in boost, which is great, where we want to be. And this thing sounds mental. It sounds so good. All right, here we go for another little one. So good. Man, this thing sounds great. So I got second gear looking pretty good. Let's just do a little romp. Oh my gosh. This thing rips. Yo, this thing's cool. I can't wait till we get this thing on the dyno and get things dialed out.
450. Go all out. 450.
This thing's pretty sick. It spools so quick.
450.
Oh man, I'm so pumped. All right, so I've been playing around with a few things in the ECU, and we'll get some cool noises. Just a little pop. That's all on D-cell. Just a little one, No flames or anything like that. Just nice little bit of popping. It's so nice. The turbo spool is insane. Nice little pop on D-cell. How good is that? Such a nice note. The turbo sounds great too. I'll get a clip for you here. Hang on. Let me just sit this here. I don't think it's shooting flames, but just a nice little bit of an exhaust note. I'm so excited. This thing's running. Looks good. There's no leaks. Don't worry, this is from the aircon of the shop, all right? That's not from my car. I've been checking under there non-stop, making sure we got no leaks and we're good. And we are good. This thing, seriously. So good. All right, I couldn't resist. We got to go for one more little pull. This thing rips. It's insane. I can't think of a better note to end on. Seriously, it feels so good that the car's all back together and driving again. You guys know, like, it's been a whole ordeal, but it's all back together. It's driving better than it ever has. It's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. The car feels incredible. The Garrett turbo is spooling super fast, super responsive. I'm really excited to get this thing on the dyno and just button up and sort out any other little issues there and make sure like everything's all good, and then start playing around with power, because it feels like a rocket ship, like it wants to take off. It feels incredible. So all of that aside, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am ecstatic and pumped to jump back into that. Tomorrow we got some cool stuff happening at the track, so that's gonna be awesome. But for now, once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button, leave us a comment, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video. Peace out, guys. Jamata.